So you're studying in the UK or a different country, but eventually the goal is to land a job in the UK. The only challenge is you have little to no experience, which in all honesty can be a huge problem when it comes to finding a job in the UK. Like, what do you mention in your CV and how do you even find a job? And that's what we're discussing today. How do you create a CV for students or for folks with little to no experience and still manage to wow the recruiters in order to recruit you? So remember to watch all the way till the end. If you're new, I'm Ashika, and on this channel we talk about moving across the world for that dream job or to study. With that, let's dive in. So let's start off with some facts. Do recruiters hire people with no experience? Not really, because the truth is some experience is always preferred. Does that mean if you don't have experience, you can't land a job, and especially one that offers sponsorship? Absolutely not. Many students have gone on to land jobs, and even ones that offer sponsorship. In a lot of cases, organizations look for people with little or no experience, especially when they've graduated straight out of college, because they like people for junior roles and people that they can train. So it's simply a question of highlighting the right information so that you land this job. Now, when you create a CV, you should have one singular goal. And it's not to tell the recruiter all about yourself. It's simply to get that interview call. That is the whole purpose of your resume. See, this is how I see it. When you share information with somebody about yourself, it's basically a push strategy. So you're pushing this information on them, whether it's the information they're looking for or not. But when you create a CV on the basis of what the job actually requires, you're actually using a pull strategy, where you actually use information based on the description of the job to include those details in your resume. So you're pulling the recruiter towards you by providing them the right kind of information which can help them hire you. You need to focus on a pull strategy, which basically means creating your resume which helps the recruiter answer these two questions. Does this person have the skill set that I'm looking for? Do they have any other skills or traits that can be useful? And can I contact them or find out more about them easily? Now, if the answer to these two questions is a yes, you can safely assume you will get that interview call. So how do we go about making sure that you can answer yes to both of these questions? Let's break it down. Does this person have the skill set that I'm looking for, or do they have any other skills or traits that can be useful? And this is where ATS comes in. If you aren't aware, ATS is the application tracking system that a lot of companies use today. In order to shortlist resumes, recruiters use an ATS, which combs through resumes that have specific keywords that the recruiter is looking for. If your resume does not have these keywords, you will not be shortlisted no matter what. And you need to keep this in mind for all the sections of your resume, which is something we'll come to in a bit. The next thing you need to do is make sure you use the right format. A 2-column format looks a lot better than a 1-column format resume, but the truth is that very often ATS cannot read a 2-column format CV, so even though it looks better, your CV might get rejected because of this. So unless you're applying to a really small company, or a company where this is a very creative role, or a company where you're 100% sure that they do not use ATS to comb through their resumes, stick to a 1-column format CV. The next thing you need to remember is really simple, but be that as it may, a lot of people still mess it up, and even people with a lot of experience. Your resume needs to be formatted well, and it's simple things. For instance, if you have no experience, you need to limit your CV to 1 page. Next, an easy to use font used consistently throughout your CV. Don't change fonts through your CV. Again, the font size should be convenient and easy to read, and again, don't change the font size throughout your CV. Every section needs to be clearly outlined so the recruiter knows what information they're going to find under that specific section. Another very important point I always mention is highlight the points that you want the recruiter to read, or points that you feel need to stand out. And another point, which is absolute common sense but is very often forgotten or not done, is save your resume when you send it over to the recruiter as a PDF file. You don't know if they're using a Windows machine or an Apple machine, so the PDF is the way to go. When it comes to structuring your resume, follow this format. Start off with your name. Next, you want to add your personal details. Here, I would mention your contact information, the country you live in, if it's the same country that you're applying for a job in. If not, I wouldn't mention it. Also remember to mention your LinkedIn address. If it's a creative role you're interested in, add the link to your portfolio, your Behance account, whatever's relevant. This takes care of your second point. How can I contact them easily or find out more about them? Next, you'll want to add an executive summary. Think of it as an elevator pitch and keep it to 1 to 2 lines at max. You can use this structure. Start off with what you specialized in at university. Any exceptional details about yourself, like how you place first at university, how you speak 6 languages, any skills that set you apart, or anything you can bring to the table. And typically end with the role that you're looking for. Remember to mention the exact role you're applying for because of ATS. Next, you'll want to mention your education. And here's the thing, if you don't have work experience, this is the section where you sell your education like your life depends on it. Start off with your latest education. Mention what course you're still studying, when you'll complete your course, and what grade you expect to get based on all previous grades. Now, this is something for you to remember because this is where ATS fits in again. If the job you're applying for is relevant to the course that you're currently studying, mention all the modules that you are currently studying because a lot of these modules will then count for the keywords that ATS might be looking for. Also mention any scholarships or special projects. If you've studied in the UK, you'll also need to mention A-levels, GCSE, subjects, grades, all of that. I'd also mention any special projects you've done just to help with the keyword search. And finally, mention any skills you've learned as a part of your education. And when I say skills, I mean skills that are transferable to your job, like time management, critical thinking, communication, especially if it's relevant to the role that you're applying for. And if you aren't really sure what skills are relevant for that particular role, it's really simple. Head over to LinkedIn and look at a bunch of job descriptions for the specific role that you're interested in and see what a lot of these roles mention. Most of these roles would have mentioned the same skills over and over again across different job openings. Those are the skills that recruiters are actually looking for. Next up, if you've done any part-time job or any voluntary service, this is where you mention it. And here's the thing, if you are studying in the UK or pretty much any other country which is similar to the UK, you would have had some part-time experience as a student. That's great, you can add all of that information here. Even if you've been doing voluntary service, that's great. I'm sure there are a lot of great points that you can add here. If you're not sure what to add that can add value, it's really simple. Look at the job description that you're interested in. Look for the job responsibilities they've mentioned and look at the tasks that they've written under that. Now, go and check a lot of other similar openings to this. You'll see a lot of tasks have been repeated. So now you know that for this role, these are the most commonly performed tasks. Now go back to the experience that you have gained and see if you can use any of that in a relatable manner over here. And ideally, follow the what you did to achieve what format so that it's more understandable for the recruiter and they see value in everything that you're adding. Now, what happens if you don't have relevant work experience? Perhaps you worked at Starbucks or some other fast food chain, or you were doing a voluntary role that is in no way related to the role that you're applying for. It's simple. You can add points like ability to thrive in a fast-paced work environment. You can mention you have experience working collaboratively with a growth mindset and openness to feedback, which are quite literally mentioned in job openings that I've seen. So all of these points eventually help your resume get picked up. So whatever experience you've had, find a good way to reconstruct the same point into how you can help the organization by looking at what they're already looking for. And if you have absolutely no experience, I would very honestly say get on it, get a job right away so that you can then have at least some experience that you can add to your profile. Next, you'll want to mention your achievements. Perhaps you ranked first at university, or have a YouTube channel with 100,000 followers, or you ran a marathon. It can be anything that you believe you're proud of. Ideally, mention the achievement followed by the location and the date. If you've got any extra skills that you believe might be helpful for the role that you're applying for, go ahead and mention them. It could be languages, it could be program languages, tech skills like editing artwork or videos, or you could have experience in social media management either for yourself or professionally. Again, go back to the job description of the role that you're interested in and check for desired skills that they might have mentioned. It will give you a good idea of what's needed. And if it's a job that requires you to move around, it would be helpful if you had a driving license, and of course, mention that as well. Now, I always say don't mention your hobbies if you have work experience, but if you are fresh out of college or if you don't have enough work experience, go ahead and mention it. But the goal is to mention hobbies that are unique or that make you stand out in a certain way. It usually gives the recruiter an insight into your personality, but if you don't have any such hobbies, don't stress. Now, assume you're applying for a role in social media marketing or as a marketing person It would be great if you had a hobby which was looking for emerging social media platforms, because that was something that would contribute to your role and something that a lot of recruiters actively look for. Check the formatting once more and you're good to go. Remember, the goal is to be persistent and not to apply for 5 jobs and call it a day. It might take a little while, but as long as you are following all the points that we've just covered and you're applying consistently, you will land that job. Now, like we discussed earlier, it's really great if you have some part-time job experience. And if you'd like to know how to go about doing that, if you don't know where to start, it's very simple. Watch this video.